Tonight, let us step quietly into the world of one of history's most famous kings, King Henry VIII of England. A king of grand palaces, lavish feasts, and immense power. Yet, behind the silk robes and gold crowns, he suffered silently in ways the world rarely sees. This is not a story of battles or wives, but of the body and mind of a man living in discomfort and ultimately decline. As you settle in, let us walk slowly through the halls of his castles, into the cold chambers where a king endured illness, and consider how even the mighty are mortal. In his youth, Henry VIII was the very picture of vitality. Imagine a young monarch, over 6 feet tall, with a strong, athletic build. He was renowned for his skills in jousting, tennis, and archery. He was the Renaissance prince, educated, handsome, and full of life. His court was a vibrant center of culture and energy, reflecting the king's own vigor. He could ride for hours, dance all night, and lead his armies with a commanding presence. This image of youthful strength is crucial because it makes his later physical decline all the more dramatic and tragic. The Golden Prince of Europe would not remain so forever. The seeds of his future ailments were sown early, in the very lifestyle that defined his magnificent reign. The first significant blow to Henry's health came in 1536, during a jousting tournament at Greenwich Palace. A fully armored Henry was thrown from his horse. To make matters worse, the horse, also in heavy armor, fell on top of him. The king was unconscious for 2 hours, and for a time it was feared he would not survive. This was not his first jousting accident, but it was by far the most severe. Historians believe this incident had profound, long-term consequences. The fall likely caused a traumatic brain injury, which could explain the dramatic shift in his personality observed in the years that followed. The once charming and relatively even-tempered king became known for his paranoia, irritability, and tyrannical rages. It's a haunting thought, a single moment of sport altering the course of a man's mind, and by extension, the fate of his kingdom. More immediately, the jousting accident reopened and worsened a pre-existing leg wound. This wound, likely a varicose ulcer, would never properly heal. For the rest of his life, Henry would be plagued by chronic, suppurating sores on his legs. These ulcers caused him constant, agonizing pain. Court records describe the foul odor that often emanated from the king's chambers due to the festering wounds, which had to be lanced and drained daily by his physicians. This chronic pain would have been debilitating. It limited his mobility, forcing the once athletic king to be carried in a chair. The constant agony would have frayed his nerves, shortened his temper, and likely contributed to his increasing reliance on food and drink for comfort. Living with such a condition, day in and day out, would be a trial for anyone, let alone a monarch, expected to project an image of unwavering strength. As Henry's mobility decreased, his weight ballooned. Unable to exercise as he once had, but continuing to indulge in the famously rich Tudor diet, he became morbidly obese. Accounts from his later years describe a man with a staggering 54-inch waist. His diet was a feast of excess, heavy on red meat, pies, and ale, with very few vegetables or fruits. This diet, combined with his sedentary lifestyle, was a recipe for disaster. His obesity put immense strain on his heart and joints, further compounding his health problems. It's a stark contrast to the athletic young prince. Imagine the psychological toll this must have taken. Every look in the mirror would have been a reminder of the man he once was. The physical transformation was not just a private struggle. It was a public one, a visible symbol of the king's decline for his entire court to see. The combination of obesity and poor diet likely led to a host of other conditions. Many medical historians believe Henry VIII suffered from type 2 diabetes. Symptoms like excessive thirst, frequent urination, and his chronic leg ulcers are all consistent with this diagnosis. In the 16th century, there was no understanding of diabetes as we know it today, and certainly no effective treatment. He may also have suffered from high blood pressure or hypertension, another consequence of his lifestyle. The constant pressure on his circulatory system would have put him at high risk for strokes and heart failure. Each ailment fed into another, creating a vicious cycle of illness and suffering. His body was, in essence, at war with itself, breaking down under the immense strain of his weight and his untreated conditions. Beyond the physical, let's consider the mental and emotional torment. Henry was desperate for a male heir to secure the Tudor dynasty. This obsession drove some of his most famous and ruthless actions, including his break with the Catholic Church and his succession of wives. Imagine the immense psychological pressure of believing your entire legacy and the stability of your kingdom rests on having a son. This anxiety, coupled with his chronic physical pain and the possible effects of his head injury, created a perfect storm for mental distress. His infamous paranoia, which led to the execution of countless courtiers, friends, and even 2 of his wives, can be seen not just as acts of a tyrant, but as the desperate actions of a man in deep physical and psychological anguish. His mind, like his body, was in a state of decay. The medical care of the 16th century was rudimentary at best. Henry's physicians relied on treatments based on the theory of the 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. They believed illness was caused by an imbalance of these fluids. Treatments included bloodletting, purging, and prescribing various herbal concoctions. For his leg ulcers, they would apply poultices and cauterize the wounds with hot irons, treatments that were not only ineffective, but also incredibly painful. The king was surrounded by the best medical minds of his time, yet they were powerless to truly heal him. In fact, some of their treatments may have made his conditions worse. He was trapped in a body that was failing him, with no hope of a real cure. He was so large that he had to be moved with the help of mechanical devices. The pain was constant. His court, once a place of celebration, became a somber space, clouded by the king's ill health and unpredictable temper. The story of Henry VIII's health is a powerful reminder of our shared human vulnerability. Behind the grand tapestry of history, filled with crowns and conquests, lies the simple, relatable story of a man struggling with illness. It shows us that no amount of power, wealth, or status can grant immunity from physical suffering. Henry, the mighty king who bent a nation to his will, was ultimately brought down not by an invading army or a political rival, but by the slow, inexorable decline of his own body. It's a somber but important lesson in humility, a look behind the curtain of power at the fragile human being who wore the crown. If you found this glimpse into history compelling, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more stories that reveal the hidden humanity behind the headlines of the past. Step into the opulent world of King Henry VIII, a monarch whose appetite was as legendary as his reign. This wasn't just about satisfying hunger. For Henry, food was power, a spectacle of wealth and status. laid bare on the dining table. Imagine a feast fit for a king, not just one or two main courses, but dozens of dishes, a culinary army marching across the banquet hall. Let's pull back the curtain on a typical royal meal. The stars of the show were undoubtedly the roasted meats, massive joints of beef, succulent legs of lamb, wild venison, and even the formidable boar, all turning slowly on spits over open fires until their skins crackled and sizzled. The air would have been thick with the rich, savory aroma of roasting meat, a scent that screamed royalty. These weren't just simple roasts. They were often presented elaborately, sometimes redressed in their own skins and feathers to look alive, a true theatrical display. But the meat parade didn't stop there. Alongside the roasts were pies, not the delicate little things we might think of today. These were culinary fortresses with thick, sturdy pastry crusts designed to hold a treasure trove of fillings. Picture pies packed to the brim with chopped meats, game birds, and rich, fatty gravies. They were hearty, dense, and a meal in themselves. Each slice was a hefty portion of Tudor excess. Now, you might think a king living on an island would feast on fresh fish, and he did, but not as often as you'd expect. Rivers like the Thames provided some fresh catches, but preserving fish was crucial. So much of the fish consumed at court was salted or smoked. Cod, herring, and eel were staples, often rehydrated and cooked in heavy, flavorful sauces to mask the saltiness. On religious fasting days, when meat was forbidden, the variety of fish dishes would explode, but they were still prepared in that same rich, indulgent style. And what's a feast without sauces? Henry's kitchens were famous for them, but forget light vinaigrettes. We're talking about sauces that were thick, heavy, and decadent. The base was often wine or vinegar, but they were enriched with vast quantities of butter and cream. Spices, a huge status symbol imported at great cost, were used liberally. Cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and ginger added warmth and complexity, turning a simple sauce into a luxurious concoction designed to complement the richness of the meats. Even the humble bread on the table wasn't so humble. The finest, whitest bread, known as manchet, was reserved for the king and his highest-ranking nobles. Made from finely sifted wheat flour, its pure white color was a symbol of purity and status, a stark contrast to the coarse, dark rye bread eaten by the common folk. After wave upon wave of savory dishes, it was time for the sweetmeats. Henry had a notoriously sweet tooth. Sugar, once a rare and expensive spice, was becoming more available to the super-rich. His dessert table would have been a wonder to behold. Intricate sculptures made from spun sugar, called subtleties, would amaze the guests. There were candied fruits, marzipan shaped into animals and castles, and dishes sweetened with copious amounts of honey. It was a sugary fantasy land, the perfect end to a meal of pure indulgence. To wash all this down, what did the king drink? Water was generally avoided. It was often contaminated and considered unsafe, the drink of the poor. The royal cellars were stocked with wine, primarily from France and Spain. Red and white wines flowed freely at every meal. For a more everyday drink, there was ale, not the light beer we know, but a thick, nutrient-rich brew that was a staple of the English diet for centuries. Henry was known to be a prodigious drinker, consuming several gallons of ale or wine a day. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. This diet was a nutritional catastrophe waiting to happen. It was incredibly high in animal protein, and saturated fat, with a shocking lack of fresh vegetables and fiber. While the rich could afford some vegetables, they were often cooked for hours until any nutritional value was gone, or they were simply distrusted, believed to cause wind and ill humors. Fruit was eaten, but often cooked or preserved in sugar. The immediate effect of this lifestyle was, predictably, weight gain. In his youth, Henry was a celebrated athlete, a handsome, tall, and powerful figure. But as the years and the feasts piled up, his physique began to change dramatically. By his later years, he was morbidly obese, with a waist measurement that reportedly exceeded 54 inches. This immense weight put a terrible strain on his body. His circulation suffered immensely. The high-fat diet likely led to atherosclerosis, the hardening and narrowing of the arteries. This, combined with his weight, made moving around incredibly difficult. He suffered from chronic leg ulcers, painful open sores that refused to heal, likely a combination of poor circulation, possible type 2 diabetes, and a jousting injury that never properly recovered. These ulcers were a constant source of agony and infection, making him increasingly immobile and foul-tempered. Then there was the gout. Known as the disease of kings, gout is a form of inflammatory arthritis caused by high levels of uric acid in the blood, a direct result of a diet rich in red meat, organ meats, and alcohol. Imagine excruciating pain in your joints, particularly the big toe, so severe that even the weight of a bedsheet is unbearable. This was a frequent reality for Henry. His organs were also under siege. The sheer volume of alcohol he consumed would have placed immense stress on his liver, potentially leading to fatty liver disease and cirrhosis. His kidneys would have been working overtime to process the massive amounts of protein and filter the byproducts from his system. Even in his younger, more athletic days, the seeds of these future health problems were being sown. The diet was always rich, the drinking always present. The difference was that his youthful metabolism and active lifestyle could, for a time, mask the damage being done. But as he aged, and his jousting accident in 1536 severely limited his ability to exercise, the bill for decades of indulgence came due. His body became a prison of his own making, a painful testament to the fact that you can have all the power and wealth in the world, but you cannot escape the consequences of how you fuel your body. The mighty King Henry VIII, a titan of English history, was ultimately brought down, not just by political intrigue, but by what was on his plate. If you found this fascinating, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into history, and ring that bell so you never miss an episode. Imagine being the most powerful man in England, a king who reshaped a nation, broke with the Catholic Church, and commanded armies, a monarch whose word was law, whose whims could start wars or end lives. This was Henry VIII, a larger-than-life figure who seemed invincible, almost godlike in his own time. But as the years wore on, the vibrant, athletic king, who once jousted and danced with unmatched energy, began a slow, painful decline. His story is a powerful reminder that no amount of wealth or authority can shield us from the frailties of the human body. By the mid-1540s, the once dashing Henry was a shadow of his former self. His larger-than-life persona was now matched by a colossal physical frame. Historians estimate he weighed nearly 400 pounds, or about 180 kilograms, with a waist measurement of over 50 inches. This extreme obesity was a central factor in his deteriorating health. It put an immense strain on his heart and joints, making every movement a monumental effort. The athletic king, who once gloried in physical prowess, was now a prisoner in his own body, a stark and tragic transformation. His lavish diet, rich in red meat and ale, which once symbolized his royal status and virility, had become his slow-acting poison. This king, who had everything, was now battling an enemy he couldn't execute or divorce: his own failing health. One of the most persistent and agonizing issues plaguing Henry in his later years was a pair of chronic festering ulcers on his legs. These likely originated from a jousting accident back in 1536. What started as a leg injury never properly healed, developing into open sores that seeped pus and caused him constant, excruciating pain. The smell from these ulcers was reportedly so foul that it could be detected from several rooms away. Courtiers and servants had to endure the overpowering stench as part of their daily duties. For Henry, this wasn't just a physical torment, it was a profound humiliation. He, the magnificent king, was reduced to a state of decay while still alive. Doctors of the time tried various remedies, from poultices to cauterization, but nothing worked. The infection raged on, a constant, painful reminder of his own mortality. This immense weight and the chronic leg infections were a deadly combination. The obesity almost certainly led to what we would now diagnose as type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, creating a perfect storm for cardiovascular disease. His heart, already working overtime to pump blood through his massive body, was under incredible strain. The constant infections from his leg ulcers would have sent his immune system into overdrive, likely causing recurrent feuds with fever and sepsis, a life-threatening condition where the body's response to infection damages its own tissues. Imagine the king shivering with fever one moment, sweating profusely the next, all while enduring the throbbing pain in his legs. His world, once a grand stage of international politics and courtly intrigue, had shrunk to the confines of his bedchamber and the relentless cycle of his own physical suffering. As his health crumbled, so did his mobility. The man who once rode at the head of his army was now largely immobile. Moving the king became a massive logistical challenge. He had to be hoisted using mechanical contraptions, or wheeled around his palaces in a specially designed chair, what we might anachronistically call an early wheelchair. He spent the vast majority of his final years confined to his royal apartments, his world shrinking with each passing day. The grand halls of Hampton Court or Whitehall Palace, which once echoed with his booming laughter and confident stride, now became a gilded cage. He was surrounded by attendants, doctors, and his sixth wife, Catherine Parr, who acted more as a nurse than a queen. The vibrant, dynamic court life that had revolved around him for decades now continued on without its central star, who was trapped in a state of quiet, painful decline. In these final months, the atmosphere in the king's chambers must have been incredibly somber. Picture a grand, tapestried room, but one filled not with music and laughter, but with the quiet, tense air of a secret. The only light came from flickering candlelight, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The air would have been thick with the smell of herbal remedies. Incense burned to mask the odor of his wounds and the undeniable scent of sickness. Attendants would move silently, speaking in hushed tones, ever watchful of the king's condition. Henry, lying in his enormous bed, would drift in and out of consciousness, perhaps tormented by fevers or the ghosts of his past. The wives he had cast aside, the friends he had executed, the religious upheaval he had unleashed upon his kingdom. The sheer power he had wielded for so long was useless now. On January 28, 1547, at Whitehall Palace, the inevitable finally happened. At the age of 55, King Henry VIII died. The official cause was not recorded with the precision we have today, but it was a culmination of all his ailments: the obesity, the heart strain, the relentless infections. In his final moments, his Archbishop, Thomas Cranmer, was summoned. When he arrived, Henry was speechless. But when Cranmer asked him to give a sign that he died in the Christian faith, the king managed to squeeze his hand. It was a quiet, almost anticlimactic end for a man whose life had been so full of drama and noise. The Titan who had held England in his grasp for nearly 38 years was gone. The news of his death was kept secret for 3 days, a testament to the fear and uncertainty his reign had created. The court needed time to ensure a smooth transition of power to his 9-year-old son, Edward VI. When the announcement was finally made, it sent shockwaves through the kingdom and across Europe. For an entire generation, Henry had been the only king they had ever known. His death marked the end of an era. He left behind a complex and controversial legacy: a new national church, a stronger parliament, and a reputation for tyranny and ruthlessness. But in his final days, he wasn't the fearsome monarch or the great reformer. He was simply a man, undone by his own body, a powerful lesson that even for a king who ruled armies, courts, and nations, the final enemy is always mortality itself. Thank you so much for watching. The story of Henry's decline is a fascinating, if grim, part of history that reminds us of the human side of these legendary figures. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more deep dives into the past. We'll see you in the next video.
Mm-hmm.